need to speak directly into your microphones so that everybody can be heard. Thank you. Are there any citizens' comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move right on to superintendent's updates. She's going to, Ms. Smith is going to update us on what's happening with homecoming.
Well, okay, everyone. So homecoming is going to be held on October 15th with a rain date of October 16th. It will be a dance. The students are going to be outside. There's an area that they've designated for the dance. And they've been working with Mr. Birch to try to get power out to that area and get it decorated. I don't know the itty-gritty details of where they're at this moment, and maybe Dr. Mayo can fill us in. But we went through a pretty comprehensive research initially. We spoke to the Department of Health. We spoke to our local health department, NDDH. We spoke to our medical advisor, and having a dance indoors was not recommended. And so we tried to propose some alternate activities for the students, but they really wanted to have a dance primarily because the 8th graders didn't get an opportunity to have a dance last year. And so now they're in 9th graders and they're really hoping to have a dance. So we were able to go through all the metrics and all the mitigation strategies. And I think we have everything in place for that particular, it's next weekend actually. And I don't know if Shannon or Dr. Mayo wants to follow up on anything else.
Well, just
The microphone.
just to reiterate what Superintendent Smith said. Originally, when it was brought to me, I asked Ms. Brower to meet with the DPH and review protocols for dances and things like that. They originally recommended no dance. We reached out to Killingly, talked to the people over at Killingly. They originally were not going to do a dance. So we were trying to find some alternatives for them to do outside of that, something that we could be a little bit better spaced, because that's what the DPH asked us for. After meeting with the kids, they had decided that they really wanted to dance. So we were going to try to work with them in that. We do have an area set up outside over on the side of the building. Mr. Joyce and I know Bill have been working all week kind of getting that set up. We will be ready to go for next Friday. So it is Friday night after the game. So actually it starts a little bit, at the tail end of the game. The guys will be playing and then coming back. We have a DJ. We have everything else set up for it. We're looking at possible, a heating situation and things like that for outside, but we'll be ready to go for next Friday. So there should be no issues.
And I don't know, Bill, do you want to talk about the setup?
That's fine. I can. We've arranged, we're going to have temporary power out there. We're going to have adequate power for lighting and the DJ. We're going to put some staging up so that they can get some elevation to hang their lights. Might look a little like Woodstock, but it'll be okay. They'll decorate it, and it's going to be okay. I think we've got the logistics worked out.
Okay, thank you.
And I do believe the tickets went on sale this week. Did they not? How much are they? $10.
And everybody's happy?
As far as I know.
Okay, great. That's all we wanted to do, make hopefully many people happy as possible. Okay, we're going to move on now to the next subject, which is long-term substitute teacher rate. You all got the letter that Melinda sent out on October 4th describing the different types of substitutes. Has everybody read this, please?
Mrs. Chairman,
Yes. Yes, Tom?
I'd like to recuse myself on this topic and the next one.
Thank you.
Okay. Somebody just text me. I'll be out in the lobby.
Okay, all
Okay. Thank you.
right. Okay. Okay, Melinda, I'll turn it back over to you and you can describe and explain to us. I've got a couple of different types of substitutes that we have. And I guess describe to us the board. I have a feeling that we're not quite sure or understand the difference between substitutes and now the internship program. This is new to us also.
So do you want me to go through the different types here?
Well, the pleasure of the board, what would you like Melinda to do?
Well, I think we can all read, so I don't think that's necessary for
Don't
you to read it to us.
Don't read the thing to us, but yeah, do we have
but-
questions for Melinda?
No, I guess I understand all of the substitutes and the different levels. But like our last meeting, I was concerned when we talked about some of the per diem. You know, as a board, we had set it at 125 and 150, and then to hear it was up to 200. Now, I understand why you're doing it. I just didn't know about it, and that's concerning. So if I didn't know about this, there are other things that I don't know about. I know you have to run the school, and then here it says, most often it does not exceed $200 a day. So if that's most often, are there rates that exceed 200 and how many? I'm just concerned. I had no idea that it was this big of an issue.
So since I've come, and actually since I've been a superintendent for 10 years, when we're trying to get someone in the district that has to fill a long-term sub position, which is usually multiple weeks or multiple months, depending on the leave, very often the daily rate is not going to be enough to attract someone to take those positions, primarily because there is planning, grading, development of assessments, all of that. And so usually you negotiate with the person that's coming in, if we're lucky enough to even get someone certified in that content area. I know a couple of times when we've had medical leaves that went on beyond the anticipated leave, it's been really difficult to keep a certified sub in the classroom. I can tell you that there's been many times that the transition of more than one or two subs in a classroom has caused a lot of angst with families. So when we're trying to get someone in the classroom, you want to make sure they're a right match and they're going to be able to carry out the curriculum. And so I've been offering, I try for the most part to stay within that $200 range. The 125, I can tell you I won't get classrooms covered. And that flexibility is important to me so that we can make sure the classrooms are covered.
Well, I honestly, I don't have a problem with it. I just didn't know about it. That's all. That's all, because we had a meeting and we set the rate and it was just surprising to me. That's all. And you can't get help. It's probably difficult at $200 a day, I would imagine.
Depends on the content area, science and math, probably not.
Kathleen?
Yes.
So when I was talking to Kathleen about this being on the agenda, one of the thoughts that I had similar to Bill is, technically we control the money. And so we had set the daily rate. And again, I echo with Bill, I get the need, but what Kathleen said to me is, there's times where negotiations have to happen. At the end of the day, we still control the money. And so my point to her was, well, what if it was all of a sudden we're paying $400 a day? So what I'm thinking is we just need to put a cap. If we set a daily limit for everything else, why don't we set a limit for this as well, where if it ends up having to go higher, it's not the end of the world to come back and say, hey, guys, look, this isn't working. But with everything else, we control the money. And so I was just curious as to why with this, we didn't. It was just a surprise. And that's for that particular subject, not the intern subject. I've got questions on that, but that's a different agenda item. So that's the question is $200 a day what we should set as a sub rate for long-term subs? Doesn't mean it has to be 200. It's capping at 200. Simply because if we have no cap, then all of a sudden we're paying 300 or whatever. You know what I mean? That's all. That was my concern.
Kathleen?
So just the difference between long-term sub and a permanent sub, when would you distinguish one from the other? Or is it the same thing?
No, to me, they're not.
No, the permanent subs are hired for the entire 185 days for the year.
The entire year,
Yeah.
not just, okay.
And we have 3 currently in the budget.
So do we go back? Are we being equitable to all the subs? So if you're pulling people in and you have to pull them in under long-term sub at 200, are we going back and bringing other people up to the 200 because that's the going rate to get people in that can fill those slots?
So there's a distinct difference between a long-term sub certified for that content area or that we have been able to get a emergency certification for versus the permanent subs that we have. Some of them are certified as a substitute, but not specifically in the content area. So that's the difference. Those permanent subs are pulled and put in different classrooms, you know, depending on the need in the building. So there's 2 that are assigned at the middle school and 1 that's assigned at Mary R. Fisher. And they use day to day and fluctuate between classrooms. And they don't have a responsibility of, you know, preparing lessons and grading and doing report cards and all of that. So that's the distinction between the 2 of them, is that a long-term substitute with certification or a special DSAP from the state has more responsibilities very often.
So what are we paying full year subs?
It averages out to $150 a day. Oh, you mean as far as like a full year substitute?
Yeah.
That aligns with the teacher's contract. So
Step
depending on what step they're on.
The permanent subs also receive full benefits and the long-term doesn't. Is that correct?
I didn't hear that.
Yes.
That's a benefit question, so, she's asking, go ahead, I don't think they heard you. I don't think they heard you.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's me.
The permanent subs, they get the full benefits and the long-term subs do not.
Correct.
Okay.
Linda, I'm reading it, but can you give just a quick difference? What's the main difference between full year substitute and permanent substitute? They're both for the whole year.
Correct, but a full year substitute is certified in that content area. So say we needed a math teacher for a year.
Okay.
We're going to hire that math teacher. We're going to look at that person's credentials, and then we align it with the teacher contract to see what step they would come in to cover for a full year.
Okay.
They're not guaranteed work after the end of that year, but they are guaranteed the full benefits under the contract.
So they're being hired like somebody that was going to be here forever, but they know it's 1 year.
Correct.
Kathleen?
Yes.
So I understand what we're talking about, the differences, but do we need to look at, or revisit, how much the subs are making? You know what I mean? Is it,
Closer to the mic, please.
Is it comparable to what other districts are doing? Are we losing people that are subs, they were substitutes here and then going to, another school in the area? Should we be looking at that? Because, it's very hard if we're trying to find coverage and we're losing them to other districts. Just asking.
So I think some area districts are paying a 150. I heard today that Ellis is up theirs, but they're paying 155 a day. I think they have an electronic sign outside their school offering 155. So it has been since COVID, a real bidding war with that.
Doesn't really seem right that the state schools are trying to outbid the local schools, but considering the state doesn't really help any of the locals anyway, not surprising.
Well, are we getting anybody in at 125?
We do have our substitutes at 125 currently, but there's a significant substitute shortage. So we are really blessed that we have those 3 full-time people that we can use whenever we need to, and honestly blessed that we have that intern because we're able to have them covering our class as well. So I think that was a smart move on the board's part a few years ago to put the permanent subs in, because that has helped a lot.
So I guess what I'm asking is, again, should we revisit what we're paying on a daily rate? Especially, I understand the circumstances are a lot different right now with COVID and with winter months coming. We don't know what's going to happen. So should we as a board revisit that?
What I could do is get a listing from the region and find out what each school department is paying. And we can, I know Ellis is 155.
I think it would be best to do that, just to be on top of it in case something does happen.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
Melinda, I think I heard last week Killingly's at 175.
Oh, gee.
Just for one day, so. Really?
Because it's so difficult, the shortages, it's terrible for them to try to cover
We
the
have to do it
classrooms.
by daily and then the long term. Because I don't know, Bill, we never made a distinction between daily and long term, did we? When we vote on sub rates?
No, we just did daily certified and daily non-certified. That's
Right.
all that I
Right.
recall that we talked about. But years ago, we had permanent subs and then we took them out of the budget because we just couldn't afford them. And we luckily put them back in. But maybe we should visit those rates, and as we're preparing budget for next year, maybe we can just up it all.
Okay, let's look at that and let's see if you can get a rate for long-term and full and short-term subs, or if they pay them all the same. please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would just like to make sure that we're paying apples to apples. All right. If they have the same credentials and you happen to get them in at 150 and you have to pay 200 for the other person, either it's 175, you split the difference, or the other one goes up.
I understand what you're saying, sure. To
That's
be equitable. Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So on the day-to-day sub, what are the requirements for them? If they're not certified, or what are the requirements to get them in the door?
So it varies, and there's been new waivers, and I don't know, Danielle, if you're up on that and want to speak to it. I do know that if they have a bachelor's degree in any area, they can become a sub, but then there's a variety of waivers that we can apply for. Do you want to?
Right. Yes, so a substitute teacher does have to have a bachelor's degree. If they do not, there is a waiver that they could apply for from the state of Connecticut, and it's a beyond a 40-day substitute teacher application. And then there's one for a full year.
Do they require background checks on the day-to-day subs?
Everybody, yes.
Yep.
Can we now talk about the intern program?
Well, the internship program is new to us this year. We had a student that came to us that was interested in pursuing a master's degree in social studies and had been substituting here and there for the district. And so we started to look into the program with Sacred Heart University. That's the only program right now that we've actually had a relationship with, although we are looking to see if other districts, other universities and colleges offer the same thing. But basically what it says in their documents is that it's a year-long study in an educational setting, and that the districts have the individual full-time for a full year. They can be used as a day-to-day sub. They can be used for grade level assistant, tutoring, guiding small instruction groups, chaperoning field trips. However, the district wants to provide an educational opportunity for them to, expand their experiences. And so it's a Master of Ed program. The student is entitled to 30 credits of tuition. And the host school, which would be the district, pays for the tuition or a partial tuition for that student. So the cost this year for an intern was $16,000. We don't pay benefits. We don't pay anything else on top of that. And so in essence, we get a full year permanent sub as an intern for $16,000. So that's new this year. We did add, because we know we were going to need more subs this year, that particular fee we did add into one of the ESSA grants to get coverage so that we would have extra help this year.
Okay, so what we've had here, what we have then is we get for $16,000, we can get a combination of a substitute or a tutor or a chaperone.
Or you can use that same person to do all of those things.
Right, exactly. We can ship this person around for $16,000. You get a person for a year.
Correct.
And this is not per semester, this is for a year.
And they have to sign an agreement that they're going to complete the full year.
Okay,
The district is charged in 2 payments, one in October and one in February. And I'm assuming to make sure the student has enrolled in the second semester classes.
okay. Okay, so if we can, this is great. I mean, this is terrific. Yes, Sean?
So maybe or I misunderstood something at our last meeting, or I'm misunderstanding it now. The
Yep.
total cost is only 16,000. I thought we were also paying them.
$200 a day.
That's what I thought.
That's what I
So
thought too.
this particular intern is filling in for a math teacher and is responsible for the day-to-day operations like any other long-term sub. So he was initially contracted in the summer. We signed the agreement for him to be for the person to be an intern. And then we got short-staffed. And so temporarily we have that person filling in a math class. And next week, when the human resource director is here, she will talk to you about her recruiting efforts to get that position filled by a certified math teacher. We're still working on that.
Okay,
It's temporary.
so I understand that. So in theory, what you're showing here could be accurate, but it's not always accurate in practice.
In this
'Cause
particular one instance, we were short-staffed at the last minute.
Well, right, but that could happen again, no?
It could, and let's hope.
Let's hope it
not.
doesn't, but we know how that goes.
So what we're doing is paying him a bonus because he's taken on additional responsibilities over and above what an intern is supposed to be responsible for.
Correct, and I just went with the rule of thumb that I had been using, and maybe that was a poor judgment call on my part. But at this point in time, we're still actively looking for a math teacher. We've got almost all positions filled except that one.
I think calling it a bonus is a wrong term.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Because I don't want people to get the wrong impression, but
Okay.
if the person is doing the
Okay.
job and then he deserves the pay that we would give any other
additional stipend?
Any other one, additional stipend. It's not,
Okay, would the minutes reflect that instead of the bonus, please?
that's,
Additional stipend. Bonus is the wrong word.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Mhm.
So I agree, the program is an excellent program. I think like we talked about doing, maybe in committee, policy committee, we need to just take a look at how we'll do this moving
Okay.
forward. Because there's still the question of, okay, if somebody is qualified and we do need them, let's say as a long-term sub, but they're also in the internship program, okay, but that means we're dumping a lot of money. And like I say, I feel this way about our staff that we pay to get educational credits. There's got to be some guarantee. We've got to work something, and with the staff, it might have to go during contract negotiations. That's going to have to be brought up because, as you said, there's an example of somebody who we put a lot of money into and they left this past summer. That's, in my opinion, that's a waste of our taxpayer dollars. I want to educate the people who want to help us, but I don't feel like our taxpayers should be paying for somebody to better themselves and then leave. And so I think we need to look at that maybe in subcommittee with this as well, is, okay, we do think it's a good idea, but do we get some type of commitment? And it could be based on, if it's strictly the internship, fine, it's nothing, because they're getting education paid for, we're getting a year at a very reduced rate. But if it's something more, then maybe we talk about a 1-year commitment, a 2-year commitment, something. So we're then getting a young educator, starting out.
my only concern would be, and I'm not against this at all, but if we have an individual who's taking over a classroom at $200 a day, that's way above the $50,000 that we're paying for a long-term sub, with the 16,000 plus $200 a day times 180, that's $36,000 plus 16, we're already at 52. So it doesn't become a good deal at that point.
And I think that was when we started talking about, if it's that, then we start talking about a 5-year commitment where we're going to get you for the first 5 steps, which is a pretty inexpensive educator. You can't just take the money and then go work for, Ellis Tech the day you graduate. So I don't know. That was just our thought in the other meeting.
I have a question. Yep. Go ahead. If we have an intern and they have to take over a position and they're getting this extra stipend, and we do end up hiring a teacher to fill that position, then the intern will just go back to doing whatever and not getting paid the stipend?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Kathleen?
Yes. Jody?
So for me, it gives a perception of double dipping because it's at the max plus the tuition of the intern. I think it's a great program and I think we should go for that. I think it's a real benefit. But have the tuition, and then if they have to break out and do the day-to-day, take the 125 or 150 salary, keep the 16,000, but the 200 is where I'm having some heartburn.
Right.
It's at the max and they're getting both.
Yeah, there should be some way of netting the 16 against, because they're supposed to be a day-to-day sub anyway.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, there should be some way of netting the benefit of having their college tuition paid for, in my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Even paid internships. If somebody goes out, and works at a paid internship, they get paid, whether it's, let's just say it's a law office or a business, office, whatever. They get paid to work there as an intern, but the company doesn't also pay their tuition.
Correct, but we're paying their tuition.
So, right.
And we're expecting a day-to-day substitute. Now, we're not expecting a long-term substitute or someone to teach a class, so there should be some way of paying them something, but not at our top max or netting out their college tuition, maybe a percentage of it. Not the whole thing maybe, but a percentage of it. Like when I went to work, if I got an A, they gave me, got a B, it was a sliding scale.
prorated.
Yeah, whatever. But that is something maybe the policy committee should work on. Because I don't think that's fair to the long-term substitute who's getting paid the 200,000. They're not getting $16,000 to go to college.
So, Melinda, I do have a question though. It's going to be brought to committee, but I know this is new to our school. Is there other schools that have this type of program? Is there anything that we could bounce off
Well,
of them?
that's a good question. Dawn.
Because that might help us in bringing up that in committee.
That's a very good question, but we also need to develop a policy for this because hopefully, I think it's a great program.
I do too, and I think it's great that alumni, recent alumni are, taking
Right.
advantage of that.
Right, and this one, it helps us bring in substitutes that we need desperately, and two, it may help us bring in teachers.
Yes.
Yes, Linda.
Okay. The partnership that we have with Sacred Heart, does it say right there that we have to pay the full 16,000?
So I guess it depends on whatever program each student is taking, but that was the bill that we received, like $8,000 payments. So we've only paid half of that right now. And so the idea is if we got a certified math teacher, we've only paid half of that anyway right now. And then we would switch over to just that amount. So.
No, what I mean is there's no way we could say, oh, we're only going to pay this much of the tuition because we're paying a stipend.
I haven't had that conversation, but I doubt it because it's pretty standard.
Yeah, so we've made the commitment, I believe, with college, so.
Yeah.
I will say this particular intern actually did us a huge favor and took this on, but we are aggressively trying to find someone to fill that class. So, and the person's doing a good job.
No one's arguing that.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that, I too believe it's kind of double dipping. And I do want to set a policy in place so that we can deal with it going forward. Okay. Anything further on this subject?
No.
I'm going to have, when we get this information, I would love to have other colleges do the same, I'd love to seek out other internship programs with other colleges if possible.
And that's what Danielle and I are working on. Actually, that's the second half of our, the next projects. We're starting to reach out to colleges and universities. One of the things, it's a resource that doesn't cost us anything, is getting student teachers in the district. And we've had over the past couple of years, teachers take on student teachers, but you have to develop those relationships with those universities and colleges to get those placements here. Eastern actually has a few practicum students in the district, and then getting teachers to accept student teachers, because that's another responsibility for the classroom teacher. But there are other universities that we want to approach and talk to their student teaching placement counselors to try to look at Thompson, because we're not far from Massachusetts, we're not far from Rhode Island, and we could tap into some of those other universities. So that's kind of where we're trying to put a lot of emphasis, because it is a free resource.
Yep.
Did someone text Tom?
Yeah. I got it.
There it is.
That's exactly what I said.
Next topic is the vaccine/COVID mandate update.
Okay, so as of September 27th, Governor's Order 13G went into effect, which requires all school department employees and their vendors to be vaccinated, COVID-19 vaccinated. So as of today, we have 209 paid employees in the district. We have 24 unvaccinated employees. 4 of those employees have refused both the vaccination or the test, and they are currently on unpaid leave and pending disciplinary action because they are not meeting the conditions of their employment and state requirements. 1 employee has resigned, unfortunately. 4 employees are on a 90-day exemption. And that 90-day exemption is because they have tested positive for COVID and they are within a window that doesn't require testing. We have 3 employees that are pending their full vaccination status. They might either need their second shot or they're in that window 2 weeks after you get your second shot before you're fully vaccinated. We have 13 employees that are providing weekly test results to the district. So that's the employee vaccination update. As far as students at Turtle Lake Memorial High School, we have 223 students. Out of those 223, 100 are vaccinated. 32 are unknown, and that's primarily because we're waiting for either vaccine determination or copies of their vaccine cards. And so we're estimating that about 46% of Turtle Lake Memorial High School student body are vaccinated. We don't have hard numbers for the middle school, but we do know that 48 students are currently vaccinated. And remember, it's 12 and over, so that could impact grades 6, 7, and 8. And we just haven't finished the calculation on what percent out of that school is vaccinated. And that's primarily because we have to look at the birth dates in grade 6. But right now, we know that 48 of those students are vaccinated. So that's the complete district profile of COVID vaccinations.
It's not mandatory that students are vaccinated, is it?
No,
Okay.
I don't know. Shannon's here this evening. Did I miss anything, Shannon? And the nursing staff has done a pretty good job. Everyone had to sign an affidavit that their vaccination cards were valid, so we've all done that. Shannon has all that paperwork on file. She collects the weekly tests from the 13 people that submit their weekly tests there. They come to her and give the test results every week. We haven't had a problem with that at all.
Yes, Tom?
So out of the 209 employees, you said there's 24 that are unvaccinated, right?
Correct.
All right, so 4 refused, 1 resigned, so there's 19, right?
Yes.
So what status are those 19 in then? Are they in the process or?
What do you mean, the ones that are left?
Yeah.
Okay. So the one,
She just read it off. You weren't listening?
Yeah, but the math doesn't work.
so
Well,
the
there's one
math
more.
doesn't work. I think we might
If you
be
take
off
out the
one.
one resignation, then it adds up to 24.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
But 4 of those employees are in that 90-day window because they might have tested positive for COVID.
Right.
And then 3 are waiting for their full vaccination status. Either they haven't got their second shot yet, or they've got that 2 weeks, after you get your second shot, you have to wait. And then 13 are given the district their weekly tests.
All right, so
I'm off 1 because of the 1 resignation there.
all right.
Sean, see his hand. Yes. John?
So, I'm going to start by saying this does not affect my wife at all. She's vaccinated. This is my opinion on this subject, not hers. I struggled with this a lot, and I actually feel I'm pretty disappointed that we didn't bring this up earlier in the year, getting ready for this. You know, I drove by the sign on the way up that said essential superheroes. And it seems like we have two different standards. One standard for the teachers who wish to get vaccinated, and another standard for, well, staff, I should say, entire staff that wanted to get vaccinated, and another standard for the ones who didn't. And I don't mean that there's different state rules. I mean, we as a school district have different standards. When we were able to have a vaccine, we gave them the afternoon off, we gave them lunch, and we set up the vaccination clinic in our gym. The ones who have chosen not to get vaccinated, we tell them, your dime, your time, you can't use your sick time, have a nice day. I just don't feel like we're treating the people who have chosen to not get vaccinated fairly. We have one that resigned. Does that mean that she's just no longer a superhero? Because this year there's a vaccine available. Last year there wasn't, and she came to work. So it's just something that I think that we dropped the ball. We should have thought of this and come up with a way to help these teachers. Some of them don't like the swab test. They want, you know, either a saliva or a blood test. They're not close by. There's businesses all across the country that are testing for their employees that want to get tested. And I just feel like we didn't even consider any options. We just said, well, the state said you have to do this, and here we are. And we're potentially going to lose some good staff because of it. And it's not unique to us. I mean, there's healthcare facilities all over the country that say they're overwhelmed, but they're firing people that don't want to get a vaccine. And I just feel like we should look into some options to help the teachers and the staff that have chosen to not do this.
Well, I do know that Shannon has been looking for people and looking for places to get a saliva test. I know she's been doing a lot of research to try to make that happen. As far as vaccinating, doing tests on site, as a district, we made a decision that we weren't going to test on site. We didn't want to open up that testing window for students. We knew from the survey that parents weren't amenable to having on-site testing. And even at that, we wouldn't be able to get a saliva on-site test for anyone there. I think the closest place is like an hour away. So Shannon did do her due diligence and try to assist with that. So I need to recognize that.
There are, Fitchburg, UMass offers the saliva test as well. And, my daughter had to go through the same thing because you had to prove, and she did what she was expected to do to stay in her program. And I know she's not a teacher, but it's still, she's working on patients. She still had to do what she needed to do.
And I don't think we're an outlier. My facility, if you don't want to get the vaccine, you have a test, a weekly test. You don't want to test, you go home. And you stay home until you bring in a
And
negative test.
does everybody feel like that's how we should treat our staff? Just curious, is that how everybody feels we should treat our staff?
We're not of one, we're a board of how many people, so it's hard to give our opinions. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's right to call out people with their opinion is. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
This is our staff. It's just wrong. I think everybody thought the world of these people last year. Usually there's a way to figure it out. And is it possible to purchase saliva tests? And by the way, as far as, well, I'm asking rhetorically, it is possible. As far as the parents not wanting, there's a big difference between setting up what I think, and I know, because parents commented to me, they looked at that as almost a, would you be comfortable if we set up a test when it became a mandatory situation? I think that anytime we're talking about voluntarily having to take a test, I'm sure if we made that specific to parents, you'd have more parents say, well, sure, if it was available and we needed it, we would go get it voluntarily. So the idea of having it in the school, I don't think is a non-starter. And certainly I think the staff would be thrilled for it to be possible in the school. Because I heard that the line at QV was extremely long last week. I don't know how it'll be this week, but I was told it was extremely long last week.
They're starting to test the students at St. Joseph and Webster if they've been exposed or there's some concern. So there is a way to do it. You know, it's if we wanted to, we could figure it out. But there is a way.
Kathleen, I know there are some places that are letting the employees take their sick time, vacation time, personal time and everything. But what happens when they use it all up? And not only that, you're not only paying for those benefits for those people, you also have to pay for a sub to be taken over for their position. Where's this money going to come from?
So that's a whole other discussion that I wasn't going to bring up, but I am kind of curious how we can dictate how they use their sick time.
The other thing is too, is Shannon, I don't know if you can confirm this, but the saliva test does have to be run at a lab, correct? Is it I believe it's an overnight test, right? Yes, and like a nasal swab or something like that. I don't know for fast test.
Shannon, if you could go to the microphone so the people at home can hear.
Please.
I'm sure there are rapid saliva tests, but what I have seen are the PCR tests for the saliva.
And you know, the thing is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, there's other testing that could be available, but again, it's a cost to the district. You know, this could be huge. You know what I mean? Is there grants to fund this? Is the federal government looking at this? I mean, with, you know, vaccines for the younger kids coming available, you know, this is something, hopefully the next couple of weeks, we'll see something and maybe we might get some relief. But again, just as Sean said, we're looking at the teachers that we're saying are non-essential. Well, what about the students? Their parents don't want them, but they still want them to get an education. Are they less up? Are they like lower than other kids? Absolutely not. You know, but I think, you know, we need to be careful when we visit paying for this type of testing.
Kathleen, Don.
Thank you, Shannon.
So, Melinda, is with the mandates in place right now, with the governor's extensions gone out, do you know if there is any state funding that would support any of the testing or anything that was brought up?
So we know there's state funding for students, but we don't know about the adults. We can certainly ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, if his extensions have been extended, I would hope that there's funding to support that. And then the 13G, is that what you referenced?
Mhm.
Do you have that?
Yeah, I can send it out to you.
Because it'd be interesting to see if that covers anything that you were just saying, Sean. I don't know what that 13G says
It's
specifically.
very, as you can imagine, vague. And you can 2 seconds Google it, Tom. That's what I did. And
Yeah.
it says right through. And it talks about the type of testing. It doesn't talk about the collection method. All it says is PCR test or a antigen test.
But are we required as a public facility to provide that?
No. Oh, no,
No.
absolutely not. question is there a moral obligation to our staff to do it?
Right.
I understand what you're saying about it being, maybe you feel it's a moral obligation. You're looking at the expense of having somebody come in and do the testing? Is that what you're saying? Because I can tell you from my perspective, as one of the health people in the district, there's 3 of us. We can't take that on. So you would have to be paying somebody to come in to do it.
Right. And I mean, what I'm seeing here is 24 people at most. It's not like we're talking about 150 or 200 people. We're talking about 24. And I am curious, does an out-of-state test count? Because I had been hearing, I think
No,
like
you got
middle,
13, at least 13.
Yeah, there's more.
no, but 24 that need testing. I mean, even the ones that are absolutely willing to go,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, again, that there's 2 things here. So
You got
there's,
like
there's,
20, you got 20 people.
there's a group that's certainly willing to go to QV or wherever and sit there for an hour. My point to that is, why should they have to
Yeah, I
on their
understand what
time,
you're
their dime, when that's not what we did for the vaccinations?
Right, yeah.
And so not only the ones that are looking, the ones that are perfectly fine with the swab test, still, we're not exactly making it convenient like we did for the vaccine.
Right.
And then the ones who aren't comfortable with the swab test, I am curious now, because I'd been hearing, I think like Southington or whatever, but Worcester is 20 minutes down the road. So if they could get a saliva test right in Worcester.
It's not available in Worcester. It's Fitchburg,
It's where?
Fitchburg, UMass.
Okay. So.
I don't think the state where the test is given matters. I mean, I get mine in Rhode Island.
I was going to say, I would
So,
think.
yeah.
Have we looked in Rhode Island for? So,
No, we have not. Well,
My granddaughter had the saliva test at UMass in Worcester.
I can't believe Worcester doesn't offer it. No place in
They
Worcester.
can, I'm not, I can't speak for them, but what I'm saying is this, is we're taxing our nurses right now to do contact tracing, and the hours that they're taking to do it that, and they have a lot to do besides this. And I understand it, it's not like I'm against it at all, but I think we really need to be careful, again, looking at the cost of it. How can it be implemented? And will it be taxing on our nursing staff?
Well, we don't know unless we ask the
Right.
question.
Well, that's what we should do, yeah. But it shouldn't be done here at a meeting. It should be done at a committee or something.
I didn't,
Why go to
Once.
committee? This is something that can be done with a couple of phone calls.
Right, but it can't be done right now. That's what I'm saying.
Kathleen, one other question.
Mhm.
So.
Shut you off.
Hello.
There you go.
So we could potentially be out 9 teachers, right? 4 that refused vaccine and test, which are on unpaid, 1 that resigned, and then 4 that are on a 90-day exemption. We could technically be out 9 teachers.
technically staff, Tom. They may not be teachers.
Oh, sorry. All right. Staff, is that right? Or,
And that would be 11. If there's 24 unvaccinated, 13 are being tested, that means there's 11
no,
that
no,
we
right.
don't know.
I'm not even considering, I'm just looking at the 4 that refused the vaccine test that are on unpaid leave.
Yeah.
1 that resigned, and then 4 that's on 90-day exemption.
right, but
These are the.
yeah, so that's
That's
3. Okay.
Sorry.
ones that are pending.
So the 3 people that are on the 90-day exemption just means that they don't have to test for those 90 days. When that 90-day window is over, they are all in agreement that they'll be tested every week.
Okay, so they still have the option of getting. They still have the option of getting tested every week
After that 90.
after the 90 days.
Correct.
Okay, so what happens
So
to the
natural
4?
immunity. So what?
What happens with the 4 that have refused, all right, I'm gonna throw this thing, has refused the vaccine and the test? There's 4
Correct.
Yep,
that are on unpaid leave.
right.
Correct. They're on unpaid leave now. And eventually, that if they don't meet the terms of their employment, then you move down a different pathway.
Okay, so,
So I guess what Sean and Bill are asking, is there a way to intervene that and bring the tests here?
right, so right now, out of the 24, we don't have the potential of 9, we have the potential of losing 5.
You lost 1 and then the other 4, yes.
Right, and the other 4.
Yes.
Okay, do we know what positions these are?
Correct. 2 teachers and 3 paras.
2 teachers, 3 paras. Okay. All right, thank you.
Kathleen?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I am not sitting here saying we should be dumping this on our nurses, we should be doing this all in-house. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I think as a district, it's our job as a board to support our staff. And that's where I'm saying I think we have failed. I think if we had started this process back in August when we heard about it, and I'm as guilty as everybody for not thinking of that, to look at a process that would just help the people who make their choice to not get vaccinated, like we helped the people who chose to get vaccinated. Whether that is finding a closer location for the tests, whether that is bringing in somebody to do the test. Again, 24 tests from the looks of this, so that's what I'm talking about is as a district, finding out how best to help the people who have made this decision. I'm not saying to put it on our nurses. I understand what they're doing. And trust me, I sat next to my wife while she spent all day dealing with contact tracing and dealing with the nurse. I understand that. But they're not the only people in the school that could make phone calls and do logistics and try to figure this out. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, you're suggesting that maybe something like a Quest diagnostic or something. But they're qualified to do testing?
I'm curious what schools in the area are doing.
Well, that's what my next thing was going to
They're not
say. Could we
testing on site.
regionalize with?
Have you checked with
Woodstock and
Pomfret Community?
Putnam?
Pomfret, I don't know. Well, I'm just talking about Killenly, Putnam, Woodstock.
Not the private. I'm talking about community.
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah, but if we pooled our resources with them and had a day, a
That's another
week,
thought. Yep.
that Quest or whomever could do the test.
But even at that, they're probably only doing a straight swab test and not necessarily a saliva test.
It's possible.
Mhm.
You're right. But for all we know, there's a, facility in Burrville, Rhode Island that is doing the saliva. We don't know.
All right.
That's all I'm
Yes,
saying.
Shannon, you wanted to speak.
Is there somebody that's looking for,
Now your mic's not.
looking for a spot to get tested that can't? Is that what you're saying?
I have been told that there are people that don't want to do the swab test.
I know that.
And so that's the biggest issue is where is a saliva, I guess, or blood test. I don't know if they would be willing to do the
Blood
blood
test is
test.
an antibody test and that's not accepted.
Okay. And then the next point for me was, when I heard people were waiting an hour and a half in line, as opposed to, like I said, we brought them right here to get the shot. I just felt like we're not being fair. So that was my 2 concerns.
Well,
So one other quick question. on
sure,
this.
Tom.
So. This thing keeps shutting off. Hello, all right, there it is. So once we have everybody vaccinated or whoever wants to get vaccinated or mandated to be vaccinated, are we going to require them to have the booster shot? Is that part of the governor's requirement?
Not yet.
No, not at this time.
Okay,
Until he puts out a mandate.
right.
At this point, it's not part of the mandate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, That's it for this update. Okay, we'll move on to another problem we're having is the bus driver shortage.
Well, luckily, Dadco's down to 2 to 3 drivers that they are short. The 13 drivers that were out that caused the emergency have returned back. We are using one alternative transport company to take an out-of-district placement student, just 2 students. And then we are still, out of those 2 to 3 drivers that were down, one of those buses impacts the Ellis VOAG run. Right now, one bus is servicing Ellis and Killingly VOAG. Some of those students are getting home late. I have worked with Dadco to see if there's a way that they can help. They're in the process of hiring. Hiring takes time. The state has been helpful in shortening the time it takes for a driver to get a license. It's between 12 and 16 weeks typically. They're trying to fast track that. They gave us a special email address, which I have shared with the Dadco, that they can fast track anybody that's in the process, but Dadco has their own hiring and training procedures. So we're trying to work with them to either put a van on where we can get the students that are the furthest away, riding on a smaller van, and then that should shorten the run for everyone else. But right now, they haven't hired anyone to actually drive that van, and we're a few weeks out from that. But otherwise, the principals are reporting that the drop-off and pickup times at the school are on time. And we're getting our call all clear, like between 4:15 and 4:25 every day. So they're basically, that means all clear, all buses are, elementary buses are back in the yard. So that's about typical. It's usually around 4:15 on a regular schedule. So we seem to be in good shape. I hold my breath on that because you never know. And that kind of goes back to if all of our bus drivers are either vaccinated or they are tested weekly. They do not have anyone refusing testing or vaccination. And that is something that we have to stay on top of because any of our private vendors, like the bus company, like some of the vendors that Bill uses, some of the extracurricular people that we have come in, our coaches, all of that, they also have to submit vaccination cards. So we have to stay on top of that as well. But right now, I'm holding my breath. Things are going okay. John?
And you're working up, I think you said the attorney's working up a some form of credit or something. We'll get credit for.
Oh, yeah. Bob is on that. I know all the dates. I know the dates that we didn't have runs going. Chris had to pay some parents mileage to take their students to an out-of-district placement. So we have all of that, and that all has to be credited off the bill we get for the month of September. So we're on it.
Did we have hourly staff that stayed late
We do.
anywhere, things like that? Any costs that we incurred?
Not that they put in for, but you know, our teachers, they go the extra mile. So many of them did stay, especially that first week back was a little dicey, but they're picking up on time now, which is most important, so that the teachers contractually are finished at 3:15. So there wasn't any big expenses there, no.
Okay.
Questions over here?
How about sports?
So sports, leave it to Coach Spinelli. Somehow she has navigated with Dadco, and you know, in the afternoons you may see a beautiful coach bus pull up to take our soccer kids to practice or to a game. But she did tell me this week that managing between COVID, the vaccination situation, and the bus shortage has been very challenging to maintain the sports programs. And she said it's been very, very difficult to schedule. And so every time they get to a game, it's kind of like a win because all of the pieces fell in place. But she said it's extremely challenging right now to even get our kids to a game, making sure the other team can play because there hasn't been a COVID exposure or what have you. And transportation is plaguing everybody.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure.
so that, yes, that is a problem.
Have we been able to continue unified sports during this program too? Yeah, okay. Okay, good.
I don't know, Nate, Dr. Mayo, have we had to cancel any games yet that you know of?
You said reschedule football games, and I think that was my last meeting.
Okay.
Outside that,
Good news. And
Has there been any ruling for now that these are mainly outdoor sports? Have there been any decisions on inside sports when it comes to basketball, volleyball, or anything like that?
so there hasn't been any discussion from CIAC.
Yeah.
We're anticipating that it's going to be like last year where the students have to wear masks. They have to, stay in a certain section and then the other team has to stay in a certain
Yeah,
section.
actually, we're off track. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Kathleen.
We'll wait till next week.
Yep, nope, totally fine.
We'll let Deb update us on that.
Yep.
We're off subject now. This is a special meeting. Sorry.
Right.
Okay. Are we, we're done with the bus driver shortage. We are going to put in a huge credit request from DACO.
As soon as we see the bill, Bob already knows he's been working on that. He's waiting for the bill. And then between Chris and I, we'll be able to let him know what runs didn't go and go from there.
Okay, let's make
when are we
sure
up
that,
with them?
we,
Please.
When are we done?
So it was a 5-year contract. I believe we're in year 4.
I think so too.
And so I think there is another year on the contract. We can pull it and send it out to you so you can take a look at it. I think there is a provision in there that we can go out to bid. We'll have to take a look at it.
yeah. And if so, we should start that this coming year.
Well, that's.
Yeah.
We want to probably throw that on an agenda one day because we've talked about some other ideas with that, maybe
Well,
bigger.
not for next time or after the first of the year. I think we should put that on the agenda.
No, I mean, yeah, I know we have to put it on the agenda just to go out to bid, but
Yeah.
what that bid's going to look like next time.
Oh, yeah, like an
Um,
RFP or RFQ.
Maybe
Yeah.
trying to expand it a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay,
Kathleen,
Yes.
just one thing, when we had those days where we didn't have the drivers, I know you got a special waiver. So we don't have to make those days up, correct?
We do not,
Okay.
because we got the waiver. Had we just canceled classes, we would have had to make them up.
Okay,
Like say New Britain.
huh?
Nothing. New Britain canceled school because of behavior.
okay, one last comment for me is, I'll make it under citizens' comments. Attached to your packet here, I sent out to everyone guidelines for public comments. I would hope that all of you read this also. And this will help explain how and why we answer or do not answer factual answers only, and we don't get engaged with the audience with the back and forth engagements. If we have a short factual answer, by all means, we give it. But other than that, we don't get into long dissertations with the public. Okay. Can we pull up the full screen now so that I can see our Zoom audience? And if we have any citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments?
Sent it in the chat.
Just put it in the chat box.
Maybe you should tell them that if they want to speak.
It's better than last time.
Raise their hands.
No comments?
Nothing?
Just got their hand up.
Well, then I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
Hang on.
Okay,
Hi,
Well,
Simon.
having no
Hang-
citizens' comments?
Hang on, Kathleen, real
What?
quick. Well, just two things to, I guess, recap. Are we gonna set a rate? We did, we talked about setting a long-term rate. Are we gonna do that as an action item in our regular meeting?
Well, we have some information to get first.
Okay, so
Okay,
we'll
yeah.
put that on the regular meeting.
Right. If, I don't know that next time would be enough time to
yep,
get
that's
that.
true.
So it might be for our November meeting.
Yep.
Okay, she has information, Superintendent Smith has information she's going to get for us
Okay,
on that rate. If she can get it, we'll have that at our November meeting, okay?
yeah.
We have
Yeah,
an
that's-
executive session in October, next week. And we have already set the agenda for next week.
Right.
There is a
There's a hand
comment.
raised.
There's a hand raised. I don't know if it's too late.
Yeah. So, and it will take time to get some of those rates.
So does Bill have to take his motion back? Because Bill had made a motion to adjourn.
There's a hand raised.
Who has their hand?
Charlene's iPhone.
Charlene, okay, Charlene's iPhone. Okay, Charlene, no record.
Hi, Charlene Langlois, 369 Lowell Davis Road.
Okay,
I just want to take 1 second and thank Sean for thinking of the staff as a whole, than the ones that have a choice that he's letting them have their choice and not being discriminatory against them. And that you'll pay $200 a day for a stranger, and that you are not thinking of making a way to treat your superheroes. And that it was nice to see that out of everyone that sat at that table, that one person could be honest and realize the dedication that the teachers that give to the town of Thompson. And unfortunately, you lost one, and I'm sure there'll be more to follow. And I just hope that taking this into consideration when we look down the road, because when the booster comes, and right now you're not even thinking of it because it's not a mandate, that you should pay attention, because it will be coming down the road and you will have to look at this again. And that I hope there'll be more than one person sitting at that table that's thinking of the people in the community that have chosen you to sit there, that you didn't just all sit there and get chosen for the people that make it your way, that you got chosen to listen to everybody in the community that gets to have their choice. So thank you, Sean Brissett, for being the person that I know that you are, and for being you. That's it.
thank you, Charlene, for that comment. And we as a board try to keep all the staff in our, when we do make decisions, we do think of all the staff. Especially over the last 18 months, they were all superheroes to us. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay, now I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion to adjourn from Bill.
Sean seconded it.